Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're located on Montgomery Road, a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn, across from the street from the bike shop. We have beautiful parking in the rear of the building, so take advantage of that. The street can get kind of busy. We have a website, audibleelegance.com. Please enjoy it. We have announcements from manufacturers. We do a blog. I do the blog there. And we have new and used equipment that's available. We'll take a look at that. Tonight I'm going to talk about speaker cabinet construction, and I'm going to touch on it lightly, not too seriously. I'll save that for another upcoming video where I show designs. Now, at one time, one of the big deals out there was the speaker made out of real wood? And as you all know, anybody who's broken up most of the speakers today, it's made out of some form of composite board and not real wood. And why not real wood? Well, the cabinet people know this real well. A grain of wood is basically like this, and as it gets more humidity, it begins to swell and actually gets a little shorter. This creates all sorts of stress on the cabinet and seams. So that's why speakers are not made with real wood all the way through. Okay. So, if you want to go that route, if you can still find them, I guess, be ready for a cabinet that's going to split and fall apart. Just the nature of the wood, based upon humidity. Now, when we talk about composite boards, there's a whole range of quality in that. And certainly part of it is density. The other thing that Teal themselves experienced is that they have to meet a certain standard, particularly if it's going to go to the European markets, and that's the amount of formaldehyde content left in the wood. Because in manufacturing the composite boards, formaldehyde is often used. Anybody who's not quite familiar with formaldehyde, that's what they use to preserve organs and all sorts of things in jars. That's formaldehyde. So it's not really good for human beings. So the cost of speakers has gone up because if they're going to the European market, they have to vacuum out all that formaldehyde and I think get it down to no more than 10%. For those who are buying new homes, where they're using all that particle board, I wonder how much formaldehyde is left in that wood. And there's your heebie-jeebie for the night. So you might be being pickled by your new home. Now, the other thing that goes on, even in composite boards, is there's still a little bit of compression. Anybody who's had something tightened down on wood notices that after a little while, it can in fact compress the wood and become a little loose. And we're going to talk about that tonight in relation to speaker drivers. Because these are all screw mounted or Allen wrench mounted. And what you have to pay attention to first is what is the mount made out of. And on these three drivers, this is metal. But this may be a composite or a plastic, so you have to be real careful. And this is very common on tweeters. So oftentimes on the tweeters, you'll see the mount itself for the tweeter unit. Here they use the star bit, and then the mount to the cabinet, which is Allen bit. And so I can come up okay. These have been subject now to some heat in the building. We've also been running dehumidifiers. So we're actually sucking moisture out of the building. And of course, there's a little compression that's gone on as well. If the driver is not tight to the cabinet, it in fact can add motion to the driver speed, which is not what you want because it's going to be changing the pitches and it potentially is going to be out of time. You don't want that. That's not good. So if I'm going to mess around with the tweeter, oftentimes you'll find this inner ring very, very tight. Very rarely do you have to do anything with these. but I can come to the outside and I can snug it. But when you're dealing with plastic and the surround, the last thing you want to do is to torque it down so much that the driver itself begins to warp. Because then what you do is you run the risk of damaging the seal. And if it's acoustic suspended or designed to be sealed, that's not a desirable thing to now create an air leak. If you have ported speakers, it's not such a big deal, but then you run the risk of cracking the mount itself. So you want to be careful if you have plastic surrounds. One of my favorite ones to do this on years ago were the Klipsch horns, all models, because a lot of times early on the driver assemblies were actually metal, so you could really have some fun. But later on they went to plastic, and you had to be a lot more careful because they weren't made with the best of plastic, so to speak, and they would fracture pretty quickly. So what we're going to do tonight to ourselves is we're going to play the speakers, listen to them, do our driver tightening, and enjoy what the results are going to be. You can do this in your own home. Those in the northern hemisphere are already starting getting into the heat where it sucks all the moisture out. We talked about that when we talked about static and humidifying your house. For those in the southern hemisphere, well, you're coming out of winter and coming into spring, so you might be able to get some advantage of tightening it up. Usually I like to tighten the drivers in the dead of winter, because if there's any expansion that goes on it happens more during the spring, summer months. So there we are. It's a little handy tip. Enjoy the results. Be careful about the plastic, and with the metal, you're pretty good to go. Just snug them up tight, but don't do them as Lin tight, which is the last step just before you break something, because I don't want you snapping the screws and stuff. I don't want to create a nightmare for you. But you'll find that most of the time you'll get a quarter, maybe a half turn. I've seen something as bad as a full turn. That's really rare. But snug them up.